I want to talk about the basics of a flip, right? Like a lot of people want to get into the game of fix and flipping a house, whether they're wanting to fix and flip it to sell it or to make it a rental. It's still you're fixing the house up, right? And a lot of people get into this fix and flip and they don't know the standard basics of a house and like what are your big ticket items. So in a house, you have some big ticket items that will, depending on your territory and your connections, can cost you a lot of money. So starting off with, like, in my opinion, the hardest big ticket items is your electrical and your plumbing. An entire rewire of electrical with a panel on a house can run you here in the Texas market uh, anywhere from 10 to 14,000, depending on the size of the house. It's also a large thing to do, money wise and time wise as well. An entire rewire of a house might take an entire week. They're pulling drywall off in some cases. They're making a mess, right? Like, it's, to me, electrical. I don't like to have to deal with electrical, but we will. The next is plumbing. If you're going to redo all the electrical in the house, you might as well redo the plumbing if it needs it, because everything's going to be opened up anyways. And that's another big ticket item. Could run you anywhere from, just the plumbing in the house, anywhere from 9 to 15,000, depending on how many faucets you have, drains you have, so on and so forth. Is it a slab? Is it a pier and beam? Whatever it is. So those are like the two big ticket items that, like, honestly, I probably dislike doing those the most. I will do them, but I dislike those the most. The other big ticket items, which are big ticket items, but they're honestly easy. People get scared of roofs. A roof is very simple. It's a roofing crew coming in, tearing off a roof, putting a new one on. Takes a day, right? Simple. Typically, you don't need a permit to do a roof, depending on your city. Some cities require it, some don't. But roofs are so quick that the odds of a city catching you replacing a roof are very, very slim. I'm not encouraging you to not pull permits. You do what you will on your you do what you want on your own flips. But a roof is very, very simple. And here in Texas, on a, say, 1,500 square foot house with a 2-car garage, say it's like 1,900 square feet total, or 2,000 square feet total, we could get a roof done on that house for about $10,000. Next is HVAC. People think HVAC, it is a big ticket item. It's costly. It's anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000, depending on the size of the unit, the house, the complexity, whatever. But it's not hard. It's an easy one. It's a trade coming in, and it's typically a 2 days worth of work, and it's in and out and it's done. Not a big deal. The other big ticket item you have is foundation. Now, foundation, depending on how bad the house is, if it's a slab, you could adjust a slab and you can end up popping pipes underneath the house. The drain lines, you might, when you're adjusting the slab, say like slab has come down and that pipe slowly bent over time and it formed okay, but you take it, you pop it right back up, it'll crack that pipe. And now you don't hold pressure within your drain lines, and you might end up with like a light sewage leak in your yard or underneath the house. So that's where doing a pier and beam, or a slab more so, will crack pipes underneath the house. Or even water lines. We just did a house in up here in North Texas, doesn't matter where it's at, where we adjusted the slab foundation, and we had two water leaks. One was a water leak, one was a drain leak. Luckily, both were on the exterior, or no, one was on the exterior of the house. We were able to get to it from the outside, digging down 2 feet and then in about 2 feet into the house. We were able to easily fix that drain line. The other one was a water line. When we adjusted it, excuse me, busted that water line. Again, not a big deal. Each one was about $300 to fix. But when you adjust the foundation on a house, it's costly, and it will also cause other issues. The water lines and the drain lines is one example, but it could break windows. It'll break windows. It can put cracks in the drywall. It can put cracks in tile on your floors. So you want to do foundation before you do anything on a house. It's typically the very, very first thing we adjust, because it will cause other issues, and you want to tear up floor to get to pipes or whatever before you put down your new tile or your new drywall on the walls that'll get cracked, or your new windows that'll get cracked after you adjust it. So we do foundation is always the very, very first thing we do after we clean out a house. So it's a big ticket item, but foundation doesn't scare me. You just have to know what you're getting into, and you have to have the right foundation crews. We've had the same exact job bid by foundation crews for $3,000, $6,000, and $15,000. I don't always go with the cheapest bid, but for me on this exact scenario, the same foundation guy that's been doing a lot of work for me for a long time is probably why I get that price. is 3,000. I go with him, and he does a good job. I wouldn't say he's the best foundation guy in the world, but he does a good job. For that $3,000 to $15,000 difference, I'm going to go with that. So he does a good job. He provides a warranty on it. Does honest work. He's on time. He shows up. I enjoy using him. But when you're going to get into foundations, realize that you will end up with other repairs. So those are your majors on a house, right? Is your roof, your HVAC, electric, water, and your foundation. Now, there's other very costly items as well. Some of those costly items are windows. A lot of people are scared of windows. To me, they're not that big of a deal. I guess at this point, I've seen so many that nothing's a big deal to me anymore. But windows on a house, depending on the area you're in, you can replace for anywhere from $350 a piece to $550 a piece per window. And that's usually the window and the install. You also need to be careful on codes for your area when you're putting in those new windows. There's still windows that you can buy at Home Depot in that very town that you're doing the flip on, that those windows are not to code for that house, and you can't use them. I recently had a friend do a flip where he put 18 new windows in a house from Home Depot that was in the Home Depot a mile from this house, and he put them in, and the inspector came and was like, you can't use these windows. These windows are not to code. I don't know what exactly it was, a certain efficiency or whatever they were. Couldn't use them. Had to remove all 18 windows. 18 windows times 300 a piece gets expensive. It's like $6,000 in windows, and couldn't return them because they were used. He was stuck with 18 windows that he actually took and just sold on Facebook Marketplace for $150 a piece when he bought them for 300. So make sure you know your codes on your windows too. Can get sticky. But most places, depending on where you are, like typically the windows that are at Home Depot are fine. This was someone, I believe he was like down in Dallas in a more like prominent district where they have stricter rules, whatever. And they cracked him for it. And he had no idea, right? He thought he was doing the right thing, pulled permits for windows, everything, and they nailed him on it. So watch out for things like that. Then, of course, you have everything else in your house, right? You have your kitchen, your bathrooms, your flooring, your paint, your drywall, and all your light fixtures and stuff like that. That's on the inside. So cabinets, all of our cabinets we do, because of the level of house we do, are pre-finished cabinets. We get them from a supplier. I don't know their name off the top of my head, but they're like a dark green color cabinet. We put gold hardware on them. Very simple shaker cabinets. They have a list of, like 100 different sizes and styles that we pick from. They take it, they put them together, even though it's prefab. You can only choose from those sizes. They take them, they ship them, and they install them. Super easy. And they put on our hardware. People think cabinets, and if you're getting cabinets custom made from a custom cabinet maker, you're going to run that bill up. So our cabinets, but there's a time and a place for it. If you're flipping $1 million home, you should not be putting prefab cabinets in that house. You need to be using custom cabinets. But if you're flipping a $250,000 to $350,000 home, where like that's the average home price or median home price, then on those scenarios, prefab is totally fine. So we'll do an entire kitchen cabinet set for about $4,000 to $5,000, depending on the size of the kitchen. And then you have your counters. We'll use a quartz countertop, and that'll run us about another $3,000 in countertops. I put in quartz. I realized it's about double the amount of the cheapest granite you could get, although it really helps sell the house. People love their kitchens, and using a dark green cabinets with our gold pulls, with our quartz countertops and our nice, tile backsplash, not big 12 by 24 as a backsplash, but they're nice little diamond shaped pieces, really helps sell the kitchen. And putting a nice faucet in. All in all, we do a pretty nice kitchen for about $10,000. That's, counters, cabinets, pulls, installing everything, backsplash, faucet, sink, all that. About $10,000 is what we get a kitchen done for, depending on size. So anywhere from 9 to 12. And then a bathroom. Bathroom is, people get scared of doing bathrooms, but all in all, like it's very simple to flip a bathroom, right? You have very minimal parts to it. You have a vanity that you could get prefab, and they actually make way nicer prefab vanities for bathrooms than they do prefab cabinets for kitchens. You can get a very, very nice prefab cabinet with the sink and, might not include like the faucet because you want it to match your shower or whatever, but you get a very, very nice one for like $500-600. And you could find some good looking ones for 300-400, like what we put in our flips. But if you want to get into like the $700-800 range for a vanity, you get something that looks very, very custom, white oak, nice quartz countertops, looks floating, whatever, like very nice stuff. And then you get a tub insert that's, $400. You have someone set it, it's a couple hundred. You tile the whole thing, and you have your shower head and your faucet and tile floors and a new toilet. Like, there's not that many items to the bathroom, so don't let those scare you. And then throughout the house, you use an LVP or carpet in the bedrooms, or real wood floors, depending on how nice of a flip you're doing. Again, we're doing anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000 flips. So a nice LVP is plenty nice enough in our flips, and it's $375 a foot. And then we're doing carpet in the bedrooms. It's like $1.75 a foot. So that saves us, $1,000 a flip there. But overall, a flip is not difficult. It's just knowing what your prices should be and what you need to do in order. Obviously, this is just a short, less than 15-minute video. I would encourage, there is so much content out there on flipping a house. Get on YouTube, find someone else in your area who's flipping a house, and be like, man, I'd love to see your flip. Can you walk me through it? And ask some questions. A flipper loves to show their stuff off. They do. So go check out, just find someone who's flipping in your area. Be like, man, can I come see your flip? See what you're doing there. Check it out. I guarantee you they will boast to you and brag to you about their flip and what's going on there and how they did stuff and what went right, what went wrong. Go walk a few flips with some different flippers, and you will learn very quickly what works and what doesn't work, and what to look out for before buying a house, and what stuff should cost. And when you're doing a takeoff on a house, whether you're doing it yourself, you're using a GC, make sure you itemize everything out. A big mistake that a lot of people do is they shoot from the hip on a price. They'll call something, rehab should be about $65,000. And this happened early on to me with a contractor I was using. My very first house I did with him, he's like, we should be able to get this whole house done for $45,000, $50,000. Ended up being about $70,000. Luckily, I had that deal bought so deep that it did not matter. It was okay that we went over, but instead of making $80,000 on the house, I made $40,000. But just completely miss the entire budget. Make sure everything's itemized out. Part of our paid course, I have my entire contractor scope of work that gets filled out in detail, line by line, and is exactly what we use to bid a property. And when we use that, we usually come within about 3% of that budget when we start with that. So it's extremely helpful. It gets into some very, very fine details, and it makes it very hard to miss anything. And if something is missed, it's because we just didn't know it was an issue until it came up. And that's what you call a change order. And that's why I always say budget an extra 10% for a change orders down the road of your flip, because they're going to happen. If you budget 70 grand for a flip, that's what you're true. Hey, we think it's going to cost 70 grand. Budget 75, 77,000. Maybe up to 80, because there's going to be stuff you did not foresee. You're going to open up a wall. You're going to find termites. You're going to have to replace an entire 15-foot section of wall to happen to us. You're going to adjust the foundation. You thought the windows were fine. You adjust the foundation. You break 8 windows. Now you have to replace 8 windows at $300, $400 a piece. So you're at $3,200. Things add up that you weren't expecting, right? So things happen. So always have that contingency in there. I use about a 10% contingency. So if we say it's going to cost 70, I say it's going to cost us 77,000. And we typically stay in the green there, and that's how we bid the job. So again, I have a spreadsheet that goes super into detail on a flip, line by line by line of everything, labor cost, material cost, what the actual, the bid, what the actual is, what it came out to, has that contractor been paid, is that contractor completed? Then it has an entire checklist that goes through the walkthrough at the end of, are all the outlets grounded? Are all the outlets working? Are all the light switches actually going to something? When you turn on a light, does it turn something on or does it not? Where the heck is it going? All those things are within that spreadsheet for us. And that's how we keep track of our flips and stay super accurate on them. So don't let a flip scare you, but know what you're getting to on a flip. Know your after repair value of it, know your rehab, and know how long it's going to take to sell. Don't push your ARV on a house as high as you can. Try to take your ARV and push it to what would be the best price that would make it sell the quickest on the market, but still makes sense to you. So if I see a house and there's an exact comp for $260,000, but it took 90 days to sell, I'm going to probably price mine at 255 and sell it in 30 days. That's how I go about my flips to make sure they sell quickly, because time is money and holding costs cost you money. If every month you hold on to a flip, that's about 350,000. I had a breakdown on this at one point, but I think it runs about $1,000 a month between interest, taxes, insurance, electric, water bill, all that stuff. Runs you about $1,000 a month. So instead of having it sit for 3 extra months on market that costs you $3,000, price it appropriately, make $2,000 less, get it off your books, and get on to the next one. So be efficient with your flips. Don't be scared of them, but make sure you know your numbers on a flip. That is the most important thing, is to know your numbers, the ARV, the repairs, and how many days on market it's going to be there, so you know how long you're going to hold it, and budget accordingly, and make sure you're using contractors you trust.